go.
Awesome. Cool. Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Patrick. I am a realtor with the DNA Home Team at Keller Williams Clients Choice here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today, I'm with Alicia Beatty and Michaela Petty, and we are kind of asking the questions that first-time home buyers or previous buyers always want to ask or do ask, and we're just kind of giving you all answers before you even ask those questions. So thank you for joining us here today.
I'm Alicia Beatty, the mortgage lady, and I have been doing mortgages for about 20 years. I love helping buyers. And I feel like that right now, Google and things that we're finding are giving some false information, or it's such a personal experience that it's hard to look up general information. So we thought this might help. Michaela is a first-time home buyer, and she's kind of started the process. And we thought it'd be good for her to ask questions that she has had, that she does have, and that we might be able to help others that have the same questions. So Michaela, do you want to start with a question?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first question, I guess, will start off pretty basic. In general, what steps does it take to qualify for a home loan and purchase a home?
Well, that kind of all depends on the situation you are in. I know Alicia has a lot of different programs to help. She does really like to help VA. She has a lot of good programs for them, but she also has people who need that down payment assistance programs. She can do those conventional FHAs, all that kind of stuff. But mainly, most lenders I've talked to, they require at least like a 600 credit score. But of course, for VA, we require no minimum credit score, no minimum down payment. But it just really depends on your situation. So I'll kind of let Alicia kind of take the lead on that, because that's more of her forte as to me.
Yeah, so the best answer to that question is like just apply and see what we can do for you. Know your numbers. That's kind of my thing I tell all my buyers is kind of know where you are and what you need to do. So the first step is just do the application. Then we do about a 45-minute call and we go through all your numbers and where you are, because every client or borrower is going to have a different situation. So you could need this, and then you could need this, and you could need this. And so it's better to kind of figure out like what your information is and what your numbers look like, because then you're prepared. So I always say that way you're ready when you're ready. And after that, we put you on like a purchase plan or credit plan or anything that you need, so that if you're buying now or you're buying in a year, you'll know all the steps you need to take to get yourself ready.
Okay, awesome. That makes sense. So what do you guys think? If I was interested in buying a home, do I need to talk to a realtor first or a lender first?
It kind of depends. If you've started talking to a realtor first, then talk to your realtor first. If you've started talking to a lender first, talk to your lender first. But they kind of work hand in hand. Basically, when you start talking to a realtor first, your realtor is going to kind of talk to you, feel out your financial situation, and they're going to pick a lender that they think might be best for you. Of course, we're always going to give you multiple options, but I'm always going to suggest Alicia because she has the best programs for people. But we're going to talk to them, see what that dollar amount is that you're approved for. Once we see that dollar amount that you're approved for, then we set you up on a home search, because I know one of the main questions that people ask me as a realtor that I really can't give them a clear answer on is, what are the safe and good neighborhoods? Well, with talking to a lender and a realtor kind of at the same time, you're able to figure out that, because we can get you that dollar amount that you're approved for, get you on a home search. You can look at all those properties in different neighborhoods, kind of do your own research, see where you want to end up. So we're just hand in hand. There's really no right or wrong way of who to talk to first, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. So if you talk to because I always want to know, like, what do you need? So there's going to be a difference on what you want and what you need and what you can have. And so it's important to know all three of those numbers. So if you want this, but you can have this, but you really don't qualify, like where do we figure it out? Because it's actually a lot easier for me to tell you how to get to what you want than just pulling a number. Now we will kind of give you an idea. So we're like, okay, this is where you are. This is what the payment looks like. And then you feel comfortable with that. And then you start looking and you're like, okay, I need a little bit more, or I don't need that. So that's great. So that's why we work hand in hand, because what do you actually need to buy what you want?
Mhm.
And then are you willing to pay it? So those are always kind of things that we work together to make sure you do that. And that's why, again, I say it doesn't matter if you're buying now or in a year. If you know your numbers, you can make those decisions, because you may have a whole different idea of what you're doing for the last year, that you could have been doing things differently to be in a better situation.
Right.
So I have been hearing a lot about how this market, the housing market that we're in right now, is pretty crazy. People are offering a lot more over asking price, and I may want a house but not be able to get it just because the next offer is, 20,000 more, whatever it is. So what are some of the issues that home buyers are facing in this market, and what are your guys' thoughts on how we kind of get around those or navigate them?
Well, I do like how you mentioned that people are offering more than what is listed. Yeah, they are still doing that. But what we have seen, especially within the past month or so, we have seen that slow down a lot. I personally myself have gotten at least 2 clients into homes for listing price. We are we're so down to do that legwork for you. Like if you aren't able to compete with that overbidding, the 50,000, 20,000 over, I'll do that legwork for you. We can always find that one home that is going to be able to be sold for that listing price, because there's always different case scenarios for different homes. Another problem that I've been seeing is just the lack of inventory. That's another thing we're starting to see a change in, is we're starting to see more inventory. I know I work with a lot of renters, because the renters are saying, oh my gosh, my landlord, they're wanting to sell their house. I need to find another rental home. So that means inventory is kind of starting to go up more. We're starting to see more homes come onto the market. Homes are staying on the market longer. It used to be, within 2 to 3 days, that home would be gone off the market, sold. But I've seen now lately homes being on the market a week or so. So you have a little more time. It's not as stressful as it once was, like literally a few months ago. But you just always have to find that realtor, and you also yourself have to be able to do that legwork and to find that one home that is able to be sold for that listing price, or even less. You never know. There's always different case scenarios.
Yeah, again, that always goes back to my know your numbers, because if you know, like, okay, I know I can spend this much. Maybe I don't want to, but I know I can. Or a lot of times, like going from, 350 to 400 could totally change the house that you're in. And it can only be $150 difference per month. So knowing kind of where your threshold is, knowing your numbers will really give you the opportunity to say, okay, I can go a higher price, and then I don't have to compete as much, or I don't have to put as much down above the appraisal or listing price. And then the other thing I have to say is, like, really be careful who you work with realtor wise, because a lot of realtors won't help you. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that in a negative way, just in a way of like, the market's hard and we are all having to work. And as a buyer, you're going to have to work with compromising a little bit more than maybe you were 3 years ago, or whatever the case is. Same thing with the realtor, like we're having to do extra work, and finding good realtors like Emily is really important, because you need to be able to like trust them, that they're out there digging. It's not just going to be on the surface. And I've seen it several times and it works really well. And so don't give up. And it's also a patience game. It's not, you got to be willing to act in a moment. You got to have your numbers. You got to be ready to go. But you also have to be patient, because that house may not come for 3 weeks. So just kind of knowing what's going on and how to kind of be okay with the whole scenario. Like, what's your exit plan? How long do you have? Like, we just kind of need to know all of that and get it together. And that's what me and Emily do. It's really focused on planning, helping you with your plan.
Right. And it's never too early to start planning, especially in today's market. Like people always ask me, when should I start looking? Well, probably now, at least start like window shopping, just so you can see what's out there. It's never too early to start planning ever.
And then you know what you need.
Yeah.
Because again, like you may be like, oh yeah, I think I only need 300, but reality is you need 380.
Right.
Like, and that's important to know. It really is, because if you don't know what if I tell you you're qualified for 250 and it's not enough to buy in the market that you're looking at, we need to know that from now so I can tell you what to do to get there. Because it's not impossible. It's just, it's again, we need to work a little bit harder right now in this market. So yes, the market kind of sucks right now, but it's getting better every day. But I don't think it's going to go away either. So we need to make sure we're preparing ourselves and you're being ready. So when the magic house pops up, you're ready, because that's the trick.
Okay, so how long does the home buying process usually take? It sounds like it kind of varies a little bit.
Yeah, it does vary. I know personally the longest it has taken my team and I with Anthony to get somebody into a home from looking to being in the home is about 60 days. The only time we've ever had any troubles is say if they're kind of up in the mountains and there might be like a problem or something like that with the house. But like I said, we do the legwork. We anytime you say, hi, I want to go view this home like now, like, okay, let's go do it. I make room for you guys because I know how crazy this market is and I don't want you to miss that opportunity to get into that home. So I would say closing time frame is about 30 days, but it has the most it's taken is about 60.
So I would say, like, let's say so it's the end of July, 1st of August. So let's say it's beginning of August and you find your magic house, right? So you've already been pre-approved, you're ready to go, you find the house and you go under contract. So if you go under contract in August and you close in September, because it's usually about 30 days, your first payment due is until November. So it's always the first the following month. So you do have some time in between. So if you're looking to, okay, when's my lease up? When could I not have the double payment? All that kind of stuff. That's one way to figure it out. If you're looking to say, all right, I want to buy in February. Well, you better start now, because it could take you 3 days to pre-qualify. It could take you 3 months to pre-qualify, but it also could take you 3 months to find a house. So the more time you allow yourself, the more opportunity you have for the right house to come up. Because that's, again, the trick is, like, I think I looked the other day and there's like 400 houses on the market. Mm-hmm. So you have to be willing to kind of wait for your house to pop up.
Right.
That answer it?
Yeah, definitely. So my next question, kind of related to that, is if I don't qualify now, what can a lender do to help me plan for being able to qualify, whether it's credit or income, that sort of thing?
Well, I know Alicia, I've sent her people, and also Anthony has as well, that people that are kind of in the works of getting to that point of buying a home. She gives you those tools, gives you advice. And even if it does come down to it to where you want to spend money to try to help your credit, then I'm sure Alicia has awesome credit repair companies, but usually Alicia can offer that free advice of how to get your credit score and how to get to where you want to be to qualify for the dollar amount that you want.
Yeah, and this is always going to be a problem, whether you're a affluent buyer or your first-time home buyer, credit repair. It's always going to be random. So it's like, don't do it on your own. So when I do an application, I'll be able to review your credit. I'll be able to put it together and give you an idea of things that you need to do. Now, I'm not credit repair, but I can give you the loan side of it. And if I think you need credit repair, then I'm going to turn around and say, okay, this is what you should do and all that good stuff. I had a client the other day. They're like, okay, we bought a house a couple years ago. We're ready to sell. We want to buy into something else because this area X, Y, and Z, or we want our kids to go to this school. I can't remember exactly what her reasoning was, but they're like, okay, we need to kind of get ourselves ready. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, we need to look at it. And I'm like, all right, well, we have two choices. You can either put more money down or we can pay off debt so you qualify for more house. So again, I needed to know what she really wanted to look for and then what she needed to do to plan ahead. So exactly like what you're asking is like, don't be afraid to get ready. And don't think that you're alone. Like, I've got to get everybody ready. You only buy a couple houses in your lifetime. If you're lucky, you buy 10, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not like you do it every day. And me and Emily do it every day. So we really are like, hey, this is what you need to do. This is what you do. These are things to save you money. These are things that you could do now so that when you're ready, you could save money. It does help us to help you prepare. But we're always going to give you a plan on what you need to do. We're not good at saying like, no, like we just don't do that. Like I really want people to know what they need to do. Now, if you don't want to do it, that's your choice. But I really want to help you know your end goal. Like I really want to do this. This is how I want to do it. This is where I want to be. And then, me and Emily know enough people, we'll be able to figure out how to get you there.
Right.
So I've heard the term down payment assistance before. How does that work? How do people qualify? What goes into that?
I know there's several different down payment assistance programs. I'm familiar more with the CHAFA. The CHAFA is 620 credit score. It's for first-time home buyers, usually, mostly. And so, but I'm going to kind of give that more to Alicia because I'm not too familiar with the down payment assistance programs. I've worked more with like conventional and FHAs. I've done only one, and that's CHAFA. But I know Alicia has different programs, and so I'll kind of hand that off to her.
Yeah, and there's kind of a reason that you don't do a ton of them. Nothing's for free. So, they're all income and credit qualifying, and they have limits. So there's not like, okay, you're kind of stuck at this purchase price and sometimes it doesn't work out. And they raise the interest rate and then you have to pay back that money that they assist you with and they charge you. So, they're not the worst programs in the world. They used to be better and they do come in cycles. There's different cycles of like, oh, this program is really good right now. And then they're like, okay, well, we're changing some of the quality like that. So, I usually try to tell people if they have it, it is going to be better to use it. We don't want to get down payment assistance just to get down payment assistance, like, because there is a cost to it. However, it's always more costly not to get in the market than it is to use a down payment program. So again, know your numbers and know what you can and cannot do and if you should or shouldn't do. If you can come up with just a little bit extra and it's, in 2 months, then it's probably cheaper and better to do that. Mm-hmm. If it's going to take you 3 or 4 years, then you better buy a house with down payment assistance because you're losing so much money.
Right.
In the market with rent and then with, prices going up in the house and all that stuff. So I highly recommend, again, knowing your numbers, but also like, you don't necessarily want to count on them, but there is minimum programs, which as far as like 3% down, 3.5% down, VA 0% down, manipulating closing costs to be covered. There's a lot of things that we do to help you make sure that you do your work, we'll do our work to help you.
Exactly.
So piggybacking off of that, it sounds like just getting into the housing market is such a big deal because it's such a huge investment. But I'm wondering if I didn't want to settle down where I am right now, maybe I want to move in a year. What's the benefits of still buying a home versus renting until maybe I want to move out of state, something like that?
Well, you got to think. Last year, homeowners who bought their home in last year have gained about around roughly 80,000 or 60 to 80,000 in equity in their home. Now, if you take a look at that, let's just do like a simple number of like 2,000. You have a rent of 2,000 a month. You rent that home for a year. That's $24,000 that you're throwing down the drain, as opposed to possibly gaining that plus more in equity. I know like a lot of realtors who I've talked to and I mentor have, they give me advice or whatnot. They've told me that years ago they would tell people that, oh, you're going to be here for a year, yeah, just rent. But now, since home prices are going up so fast, they're going to be here for a year, might as well just make some money while you're here, instead of giving somebody else your money. And then if you're going to move to another state, you can sell the home or even rent it out, but sell the home, get that equity, have it for a down payment for another home, and you can be able to get into a nice home where you might stay permanently or do it all over again.
Yeah, my on the money side, my argument is I again get in the market, because the only way to like get to the house you want is to start. And so if you're like, okay, well, I think I'm only going to be here a year. Well, what if you're here 5?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, if you're stuck here, you don't know what's going to happen. Life's going to happen to everybody. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. So it's better just to kind of be like, all right, well, what's going on with me right now? What should I do right now? Because you are buying for tomorrow. And so you kind of want to get an idea of like, okay, could I lease this out? That would be my number one question, is just making sure that if you're stuck in this house and you want to leave, that you could rent it out, because that's not a big deal. And it's a great way to make some money in this market, because rent's so expensive.
Right.
So it's a good way for you to kind of have some exit plans, but also be like, okay, if I'm stuck in this house, is it a good or a bad thing? And I mean, that's kind of the question you'd ask yourself. Now, if it's most 90% of the time, it's going to be a good thing, but you need to go through that process and knowing like, that would be my first thing, is knowing exactly how much that house will rent out for, while you're buying. Whereas typically you don't necessarily need to know that, if you're just going to buy a house that you're planning on living in for a while. But if you're got that thought in your head that maybe I'm only going to be here for a year, maybe I'm not, whatever, you're going to have 100% would tell you to buy, but just know your numbers, know how much rent you could get out of it, make sure it could cover it, because you don't want to get into a situation where it's a bad situation.
Right.
And so that's where we'll watch out for you and guide you along the way, being like, okay, this is a really good house that you could rent out or you could sell easily, right? Not putting you into something that's a little bit, it's your awesome house, but it's not exactly going to benefit you in a year.
Right.
So, that's where telling us your goals is really important, but also like, just because you think you're going to move in a year doesn't mean you should buy a house. That's not true at all.
So does a realtor help me determine what is a good offer or what type of offer I should put on a home? Or am I just kind of left to my own devices about what kind of offer I put into a home?
So ultimately, of course, the offer you're going to put in is going to be ultimately up to you. But of course, I'm going to offer you the best advice I can because I work for you. I am at your disposal. I'm here for you. What we usually do, say you see a home that you like, and you want to put an offer in on it. What we do is we send you comparative homes. So those are homes that have been sold within the past 6 months to a year, depending on kind of how many comparative homes are available. Say if I do like a 6-month search and there's only like 2 homes that are available, then I'm going to bump it up to a year or so. So I send you homes that are in that subdivision around the same square footage, have the same number of beds, baths, same layout, all that kind of stuff. And then we go and see how much those homes are sold for. And then we kind of talk through those, compare, and all that kind of stuff to see what we think is a good offer. And like I said, of course, it's always going to be ultimately up to you, but we will always give you the best advice and give you knowledge, the tools to feel confident in that offer that you're submitting.
So I don't know much about what I even need to look for in a home? Like, do I need to check when I'm touring houses? Do I need to check if the electrical is all good, the infrastructure? So, what does the realtor help me look out for when I'm touring a home?
Well, of course, we're going to look at obvious things. We're going to look at water damage. We're going to look at wall damage, roofing. There's exposed wires. We're going to, of course, see the obvious. But when you go under contract on a home, there's that inspection objection date. So that is basically, you're going to have an inspector come in. They're going to do kind of like an overview of the home, and they're going to let you know kind of a base of what's going on with that home. Say if there is something going on with the electricity or something like that, they're going to refer an electrician to come out and investigate that further. But of course, me as a realtor, I'm going to point out the obvious because I am working for you. I don't want you to come into a home that, say, the foundation is literally crumbling underneath you. Those are things you can see. And I know I have done personally myself tons of FaceTime showings, and I'm going to give you a close-up view because at the end of the day, when you get into that home and you see that your foundation is literally crumbling underneath you and there's water stains on the walls and stuff like that, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good for anybody. So there's always going to be me pointing out things like, hey, look at this. You see this in the wall? It's kind of starting to bubble a little bit. We're going to have to get that checked out.
Yeah, and there's different inspectors and inspections that you can do. From our side, like I just, I don't see the house, so I don't really help any. But obviously getting a recommended inspector is really good. And then I always recommend, especially for a first-time home buyer, is getting a home warranty. So I call it the landlord policy because you call them up and they come out and they fix it, and it's like $60. I think 70, maybe it's gone up a little bit, but it's like $500 a year. You can keep it as long as you want, and there's different companies, so just kind of do your due diligence. But they'll come out and they cover your appliances, everything. So especially that first year, you kind of knew what you were getting into, but everything always breaks, right? That first year, or at least in your mind, you think it's going to break, right? And so you have this home warranty that's really going to come out and help you. So I always tell my stupid story of like, I think we're super smart, and my husband was a mechanic, and I'm like, yes, we got this, right? And so I couldn't figure out how to turn on these stupid lights and this light in the garage. And I was like, what is going on? So I called the home warranty. We checked everything. The guy comes out and pushes the stupid button, right? GFCI hidden. I was like, I tried everything. I fell down, but I learned a lot, right? They come out, they teach you. So you're not just like thrown to the wolves. There is tools to make sure that you're, covered and that you're comfortable, because we're not going anywhere. You can ask us like for advice or recommendations. Like we want you to succeed in your home buying.
Right, exactly. Like I had a client actually call me the other day. They're like, hey, where's my breaker box again? And I'm like, oh, it's in your garage, remember? And
Yeah.
so we're always here for you, always.
So it sounds like a realtor is obviously really important because they're so knowledgeable about the house, the industry, all that kind of thing. So I'm wondering about how paying the realtor works and what your fees are.
So usually here in Colorado Springs, especially for the buyer's broker, we get about 3% commission. Most of the time, because when you're buying from another agency, say you're in a contract to be with a buyer's agent and stuff like that, you're looking at a home, it's listed by a listing agent. That listing agent, their brokerage is responsible for paying us. That is coming from them. They are getting a 6% commission, and then they're splitting that with us. So 3 and 3. The only time that you would possibly be liable to pay us is when you're doing a for sale by owner. But sometimes you can even negotiate with that owner to pay our brokerage fee, because we're bringing them that buyer, and we are giving them sometimes more than what they are wanting. And it just really depends on that scenario. But most of the time, the buyer is not responsible for paying us. It is usually from the selling side.
Okay.
Yeah, and I always, I'm a huge advocate, obviously, of realtors, but I tried to buy a Bill's house on my own because I was like, I have so many realtors, I don't know who to pick, and I'm sure I can figure this out. And I go to the builder and I leave. I was like, yeah, this is not working out. Like, I need a realtor to kind of like just tell me what I don't know, right?
Yeah.
And be able to be the mean guy sometimes, because you don't want to piss off your seller because you're like, what are they going to do to my house, right?
Mhm.
So when you have like a good cop and a bad cop, it really does help your whole process. And they know how to keep you out of trouble, because the sellers will take advantage. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that we all are out for ourselves in this on a contract. And so
Mhm.
it's really important to have your representation, even in a build job. And the builder pays the realtor. So as a buyer, there's no reason not to have a realtor. Even on if you're buying a house from a family member. Like, I think it's really important to negotiate the fee and figure out what's the best way, but to still have some representation so that you guys don't end up. And I've just seen it so many times where the realtor is, kind of saved your butt a lot. So highly recommend, doing some research and asking a lot of questions. And then, just ask your lender, ask your, somebody that's in the industry. Don't ask your friend because they have a whole different experience. But, ask somebody in there, be like, does this sound right? Is this okay? Like, whatever you're thinking, like, we're going to help you understand. There's not, find people that are out there to help you.
Right.
So switching gears a little bit, because we kind of touched on the topic, but I don't know much about it. Alicia, can you explain a little bit about the different types of loans and how I would know which one to get?
Yeah, so there's kind of the basic as far as like, okay, you have a VA loan, and then you have an FHA loan, and you have a conventional loan, but there's standing and there's Freddie, there's mortgage insurance. There's a lot of little parts that come up. And, you hear all these loans marketed, and it's basically taking those loans and manipulating them into fancy things. Um, Again, that's just kind of going back to know your numbers. So when I qualify you, I'm like, okay, FHA is going to be better because of this, this, and this, or conventional is better because of this, or VA is better because of this. Now, it really is going to depend on you and what you like. I really feel like it's kind of one of those, the numbers will show you your way. And so if we can kind of get an idea of like, okay, what's going to make the most sense for me, then that's really what we want to look at, because you can research FHA, VA, conventional all day long, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you should do. Right. So it's really important for us to kind of walk through your goals, because like going back to the other scenarios, if you're leaving in a year, we need to make sure that's not going to prevent you from having issues buying in the future. Right? Because it could be short and we need to structure it correctly. Like, knowing your goals is really going to help me kind of figure out what's the best thing for you and then how to be the most competitive. Because like, a lot of people don't use mortgage insurance to their benefit. And so showing you how you can manipulate your numbers so you don't have to put 20% down, you can save a lot of money, still not pay a bunch of monthly mortgage insurance. So like, let me help you through that process. Don't try to figure it out.
Right. So say someone, sorry, Michaela, I'm kind of asking a question right here. So say somebody doesn't qualify for VH where they have to have no minimum credit score, no minimum down payment. Would you say like 600 is kind of like where you need to be with that credit score?
Yeah, 600 is good. We like 620. We like 640 more.
Right.
But yes, I mean, but don't try to do it on your own.
Mhm.
Like, because I always find that people like the mortgage score is going to be a lot different than the score you guys pull like just on your own Credit Karma or whatever. They're good information, but ours could be completely different. And sometimes I even say it's easier to get a mortgage than a credit card because just they're so different. And I have found a solution. It's on the Equifax app on your phone. It's called FICO 2, and that is the one we use.
Okay.
So I do try to teach you how to like monitor your score and actually get the score we're looking at and how to maybe boost it up a little bit. Because sometimes like if you're at 700 and I'm like, dude, you could save like thousands of dollars if we get to 720, and all you have to do is pay down this card $300. Like, why not? Right. Exactly. So it's not going to be just limited to whether you're at 600 or anything. Like we want to help you get to that next savings point. And sometimes it doesn't save you. I have a lot right now. I'm like, it's going to cost you 3,000, it's going to save you 3,000, and you don't really want to do that. So let's just move forward, and it is what it is. And so
Right.
sometimes it's better not to do it. So that's where, finding the credit score is really important, but also just like, let me tell you what it is, and then I'll show you what to do from there.
Gotcha. So as far as income, what I've always been told as a realtor is that you have to have 2 years of consistent income in the same job field. It doesn't matter if you say you've gone to like a different company, but you stay in the same job field. It has to be just in the same job field for about 2 years. Is that still correct?
Yes and no. I
Okay.
mean, again, that's one of those things, like, don't try to understand it. I had somebody just graduate college,
Mhm.
so and they're in their fields. Well, they haven't been in their fields for 2 years, but
Right.
they just went to college, and so I can use different things to make it work.
Okay.
Somebody was in the military, got out of the military, and is working, like, there is different ways. That doesn't always hold true. I do need 2 years of history. And we got to show that you know what you're doing and that you can hold a job.
Got
And everything else, I can kind of show you what to do. But that's not always true. You can buy a house with an offer letter. You
Yeah.
don't need to have 30 days of pay stubs. Now, sometimes you do. So it's just kind of like, everybody's got their own situation, and I want to be able to help it, but you'd probably be surprised what you can get away with. And as far as like, oh, I thought I couldn't do that. Well, you probably can.
Nice. Okay.
So I think we kind of broached the subject already, but can you just explain the stages of home buying? And you already answered how long the process kind of takes, but just explain the stages until when I get the keys to my house. Because I
Gotcha.
know there's, the inspection, appraising, all this stuff.
So, first thing we want to start with is getting you pre-approved. We really can't do anything until you're pre-approved, so we know exactly how much you are able to afford, how much you're willing to spend, and all that kind of stuff. Once we get that pre-approval amount, we talk to you. We think about your needs, wants, must-haves, all that kind of stuff. Then I get you set up on that search. I'll get you set up based on your criteria, based on your how much you're able to afford. And I send you all those properties. Then you'll give me some feedback, tell me which ones you like, set up some showings. We'll go view them, check them out, all that kind of stuff. Once you decide on a home that, like, yes, this is the one, this checks all the most important boxes for me, this is right in my price range, then we put in that offer. But before we put in that offer, of course, we're going to look at comparative homes. We're going to talk about it, see what we think is a really good offer and what we're confident in. Once we go under contract, if that offer is accepted, then we schedule an inspector. We get that earnest money sent out. Earnest money is kind of like a down payment in a way. It's not extra money that's put into the home. It is that earnest money is a down payment that's going to go somewhere, whether it's towards your closing cost or it's towards your down payment, something like that. We send that earnest money out, get that inspection scheduled. Once all that happens, we do inspection objections. Say you see that the roof needs to be redone or something, then you negotiate with the seller. We just do negotiations as far as that. We do appraisals, figure out if anything needs to be done with the property, just things like that. And then hopefully within 3-4 weeks, depending on your lender, it is always good to talk to your lender about when you think you are able to close when you're writing that contract also, because you don't want to put a closing date that's too early, or you don't want to put it too late, because you could, be paying extra money. Say you're staying in an Airbnb or a hotel, you could be paying extra money and you don't even have to be paying that extra money. So it's always a good idea to talk to that lender before you put an actual closing date on your contract. But once we get to that point of that closing day, we go to title. You guys come with the money that is needed from your settlement sheet to bring money to the table, sign the papers, and bada bing, bada boom, we're in the house.
So how
Yes.
long until after closing do you get the keys to the home?
That is negotiable. Most of the time, what I do on my contracts is delivery of deed. So basically, the day of closing, you are able to get into that home. Sometimes it is negotiated with that seller because that seller needs a little bit longer to get out of the house. We do a post-occupancy agreement. So that means that they will kind of rent it from you. It'll be what I usually put on my contracts is about $250 a day. That'll pay for laundry, having to go out to eat, or a hotel room, whatever your scenario is. But it's always negotiable. But most of the time, it is the day of closing, you're able to get in that house and get things going for you.
So the lending process of that, like, so you go under, pre-approval, then I just kind of wait until you get a contract. And then once you get a contract, then I order the appraisal. Once the inspection, everybody's like, okay, it's not a deal breaker.
Mhm.
So we'll order the appraisal. The appraisal is, people think it's like an inspection, but it basically just says, is this a valid price? The lender's making sure the house doesn't have like a hole in the roof. Like we're lending on this house, so we want to make sure it's up to a standard. And they're industry standards. It's not for, this lender, this lender. I mean, it's pretty standard. And basically, usually if it's livable, we're usually good. Every once in a while, we'll have a random repair or something. So they do come up, but not very often. Once we get the appraisal back, we confirm all the numbers, we get you into closing. During the process, we will ask for stuff from you. Underwriting is going to say, give me your firstborn and you have to do it. Not really, but it does feel like that a little bit when we're because we're digging into your life. And when you're asking for $400,000, $200,000, it's a lot. Yeah. So just be a little bit prepared and patient and know it's just the process. And I'm on your side. So I'm your advocate. I'm helping you. Emily will help when she can. And so we're working through it, trying to get you to the finish line. And then you'll get your documents to the title company. You'll get your final number, the day before closing. And then you do cashier's check so you can bring it with you. And you sign on the dotted lines. And then we fund the loan, which means we've sent all the money for your loan plus your money. And everybody's happy. And then it funds, and then that's your home. And then from there, it's just based on your agreement on when you can move in. And I would say, it's still pretty 75, 80% of the time it's that you get it at closing, you get your keys. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I think that was all my questions, but I appreciate your time and expertise.
Yeah, they were great questions. Good job, Michaela.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming. Thanks, Michaela, for providing all these questions for us. Thank you, Alicia, for helping me out today and answering all those questions about loans. And yeah, hopefully you guys will join us for our next one. We are planning on having it the 29th, correct? Yeah, the 29th. So we hope to see you guys there.
Thank you.
So thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.